So Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, my pleasure.
I'm so excited to have you. So to get things started, I thought I'd just do a few rapid fire questions. So for these ones, just answer with the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So, okay. First one. Favorite song in Hamilton?
Yorktown, for sure.
Last thing you Googled?
I want to say it was like, I want to say it was, I can just check. Let's find out. It was something super random.
It usually is.
It might have been a Jimmy John's location or something.
That's good.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, favorite city you have performed in, not including Denver?
Okay, because Denver's first.
Yeah.
Honestly, I loved, they've all been so good. The audiences are like subtly different in each one. I really liked San Diego, like as a city. I really vibed with that city. It was super cool. Yeah, I really liked it there. That was fun. No, I changed my mind. Tempe was the best because it was on a college campus, so like the energy there was just like so awesome. And there was a professor that used to teach at Ithaca College, which is the school that I went to, and then he now teaches at ASU. So I got to like do a talk at his class, and like all his students like randomly like saw me like go on because I was on for about a week for Lafayette Jefferson. So it was just like, I don't know, it was super cool. Like I felt like just a tiny bit famous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, two more rapid fire ones. One word to describe Hamilton.
There's a bunch.
You can do a few.
I know. I'll say groundbreaking's for sure one.
Yeah.
Movement. Like it's such a movement.
It's
It's more than, I mean, it's like obviously musical theater, but I feel like it's done so much more than that, and the timing of it and just like cultural implication that it has it's just like, yeah, I would say movement.
Cool.
Yeah.
Last rapid fire. Coolest person you've met while performing in the show?
I want to say, I have a story about. Have you guys seen the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? Yeah, I like love that show, and Rachel Bloom is like the main person in it. Like I went on as Lafayette Jefferson once, and then it was in LA, and like after the show I saw her and I was like, oh my gosh, and I was just creeping from afar. Like I was just like, it's Rachel Bloom. Like, what do I do? Do I just like say hi? No, I can't do that. That's stupid. And then she saw me and she was like, oh my gosh, it's Thomas Jefferson. And I said, no way. Like it was the craziest thing. Yeah, and then she just like came up to me and we chatted for a second, and that was really cool. And Seth Green too, he was really nice. Yeah, I mean, we met a bunch of people. That's like probably my most notable interaction, just because I was like, that was so crazy that she like called me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so now we'll get to some more bigger questions. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about all of the characters you play in the show and what it's like to be in the room where it happens?
Okay. So it's funny. So offstage principal standby is my title, which basically means I'm hired for the sole purpose of just being there in case something happens, so I can go in whenever. Or, before the show, I'll get notice, maybe 2-3 hours before. Somebody asked me, like, how early do you usually know? Like, is it a couple days? Do they tell you, like, the week before? And I'm like, literally anywhere from, like, months to, like, a couple minutes. Yeah. Like, I had a last week, I was playing Uno with, like, the other swings, and the stage manager came in. She's like, hey, you're going to be Jefferson in the second act. And that was just it. Like, that's what happens.
So mid-show?
Yeah, mid-show.
Okay.
And that's only happened to me, like, a handful of times where that happens. So, I mean, that's honestly, like, originally, that was really, I've never had to do anything like that before. That was really hard, and it was really stressful, and especially with, like, this brand. I mean, it's so larger than life. It's so, it's just huge, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it, but at the same time, like, there's a gravity to it, or there was. I mean, I don't so much feel this anymore. I've relatively gotten used to it, but at the beginning, it was very crazy to have to just be, yes, I'm enough, I can do it, like, it's so, it's a lot, but I don't know, now I really love it. Like, it's just like, you just never know what your day is going to turn into. I don't know, it's so much fun for me. especially because like, I don't know, I like to consider myself somebody who goes with the flow. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing to be able to do, but I'm very proud of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that, I don't know, I feel like I went in a different direction, but yeah.
No, that's totally fine.
Cool.
Do you have a favorite role you get to play in the show?
Honestly, I think I relate most with Lawrence Phillip, and but the funnest role for me is like for sure Jefferson. I mean, like you literally get to be extra. It's so much fun. Like, you're just the most. It's the best. Like literally, like you come out. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like at the very beginning of the act, you like come out on like a staircase and you're just like in a velvet suit, and like you'll hear like a couple people from the back go like woo, and then I don't know. This is what I do. Is I'll just be like it's like I come up and everybody cheers. It's like it's so crazy. It's the most. It's so extra. I love it. That's definitely the funnest.
That's awesome. What would you say is the most challenging part of being in the show? Is it going on last minute or?
I think there's been a whole arc of like things that I've considered challenging and like overcome more or less. You know, at first I think it had to do with the stress of being associated with the brand. I mean, like I said, it's just magnificent. It's just this very big thing. So I think that was like difficult for me a little bit. And then I was very homesick for a long time.
Oh, you're home now. So.
Yeah, I know. So that's yeah. It's interesting, you know, just like really not having a home now. Like, I mean, yeah, like this is my home, but you know what I mean. We're touring.
Yeah.
So that's been tough. But then as far as like the performance goes, like I said, it used to be like having such a short notice, such a short amount of time to prepare and go on, but I don't know. It's interesting because things that I consider challenging are now things that I kind of enjoy. It's all kind of like transformed into something else. I guess now it's just, you know, making the most out of it and like trying to like remember that, because sometimes it does feel like a job. You know, we've been doing this for like over a year, and it does feel like going to the office sometimes. You know, it does feel like a little bit crazy sometimes. So I guess like remembering that, like, you know, I feel like every period of my life, like I look back on the previous period and I'm like, oh, that was the best. But like while I was going through it, it didn't feel that way. So now I'm just trying really hard to be like, yeah, this like really is like awesome. So I guess just trying to like take that in while it's happening. You know?
Cool. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got involved with Hamilton and what the audition process was like?
Yeah. I was really, really fortunate. So I graduated college in May 2016, and I was able to get, like at most theater college, performance colleges, we have this thing called a showcase, which we basically go to New York City and then like prepare a song and a scene or something with our class for a bunch of agents and managers and casting directors and stuff like that, just like a bunch of people, anybody who wants to attend. And I was fortunate enough to get signed out of that, and my agent was very, very, very good to me. She's really awesome. I love her. And she was able to get me an appointment. You know, I did auditions. Like I moved there over the summer to New York City. Like I did a show around Ithaca, and then I moved straight to New York City after that. And then I was just like auditioning around. It was mostly like workshops, like just kind of smaller projects, like startup things. Like I was in callbacks for Aladdin for a while, but I'm just bad at tap dance, so you know. So it didn't end up panning. But yeah, and then around, I think it was October, was when I got an appointment for this. And then I went in, and it was, they have a general mail packet. It had like Dear Theodosia, Blow Us All Away, Washington on Your Side, I think. Yeah, and then I did that, and they called me back in for Sons of Liberty and Hamilton. And then it was like, they're like, oh, good job. Okay, can you learn like these 50 songs? And then it was like, I had to learn like so much music. It was like crazy. So I ended up, I think it was actually like 8 songs or like 8 cuts. And I learned them all, and then I went back in and they asked me to do like 2 of them. And then, yeah, and then it was a crazy process. I think I want to say I had 7 callbacks. And it took 2 months, and it was one of those things where it was like, I would do one, I didn't know how I did, and then it would be like a week of just thinking about it. And then they would email me and be like, hey, can you come in tomorrow morning? I'd say, yeah, sure. And then you always gotta say yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like, you know, I was just starting out, I got no leverage. Like, what am I gonna say? Like, yeah. No, I have a 2 o'clock. Like, yeah. So then, you know, I did that like 6, 7 times. And then the last one was a dance call, because they hadn't seen me dance yet. So I was like, great. And then I showed up and there was nobody there. I was like, what's going on? I'm in the wrong place. Oh my gosh, I was freaking out because like obviously I don't know, I was just stressed all the time. And yeah, so then there was nobody there and I was like asking around, and I asked the person at the desk, I can't remember the name, but yeah, and then she was like, no, this is the right place. Yeah, they'll see you shortly. And it was just the associate choreographer. It came out, he's like, come on in, and then it was just me and him. And I was like, why me? Why? This is the worst. And then it was so funny, because like, you know, like, it's not like I can't dance. Like, you know, I'm fun at parties, like I can bob, you know. I do okay, but like, you know, like, you know, that's not like me.
It's tough choreography.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like craziness. And so there's a mover call and a dancer call, and they put me in the dance call. And then he was teaching me all these like crazy moves. And I said, no, this is it. Like, this is the end. But I think they wanted to see like how I moved or something, like, or how fast I picked it up. Like, I don't really know, but whatever, it worked out.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah. But yeah, and then that was the last one, and then I didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks. And yeah, and then I got the call right before Christmas. It was December 23rd, and I was my family lives in Puerto Rico, and I mean they're all Puerto Rican, and yeah, so I was on my way to visit them for Christmas, and like I was literally like on my way to the airport, and my agent called me, and then she like told me that I got it, and I stopped the Uber. I was like, I have to get out, like. So I just like, I literally like, I'm sure I looked like a crazy person, but I like literally just like got out of the car and just like ran. Like I just like ran around and like, and then I just like called 3 people, I ran some more, and like I called 3 more, you know, and then rinse and repeat. And then yeah, and then I like went to Puerto Rico, and like I felt like a superhero. I felt so cool. Yeah.
Life-changing moment.
I know, it really, yeah. And then we started rehearsals like 2 weeks later. It was great.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so before I saw Hamilton for the first time in 2015, I have to admit my American history knowledge was lacking a bit. How much American history did you know before starting the show?
I mean, I don't know. A fair amount. No, I'm...
Like, I knew Alexander Hamilton was on the $10 bill, and like, Burr shot him in a duel, and I was...
Can I tell
sorry
you something
to my high school teachers, but that's all I remember.
I literally, because I think I was just so focused on like learning the words that, like, I remember there was a moment where I was like, oh, the $10 founding father. Like, 2 months into rehearsal. Yeah, I mean, so I guess not a lot. But it's so, that's why I love this show so much, especially, you know, with like the outreach that we do with schools, and just like the amount that we talk with students and stuff like that. Just, it really made me passionate about learning about, you know, our history as a country, and I think it really has that effect on, I feel like everybody. I mean, like, I didn't know a lot of this stuff, and it's, you know, some of it's obviously like it's dramatized and stuff like that. Some things get glossed over. I mean, you have to, you know, we have 3 hours to like tell a lifetime. But I mean, it made me passionate about, like, it made me want to learn more about it. So I mean, definitely the process has made me smarter. I think beforehand, no, I didn't know a lot about it. I knew that Hamilton like was a dude who existed at one point, and there was a show about him with like a rad music. So, yeah.
Cool. So, kind of segueing into education, which you just mentioned. So, since the show's inception, there's been a huge initiative for education, making the show accessible to students.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar, can you tell us a bit more about the EduHam program and what those performances are like?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fabulous. I'm obsessed with that. I mean, you see just like the most passionate kids. Like it's very inspiring to me. Like as a performer, you know, it's just like I don't know. It's like they'll come in and they'll do you know, anything, like a poem, a rap, you know, just spoken word, whatever, make a speech, you know, just something about something that they believe in. And everybody brings in different ideas with, you know, similar drives behind it that are just like, I don't know, I guess for me, I feel like I was a relatively soft-spoken person about my own opinions up until, I don't know, even now, like it's like, I'm not really loudmouthed about the things that I believed in. I wish I was a little bit more. But it's so cool to see like how this show just inspires like kids who are just younger than 18, you know, kids who are still maturing, you know, to really just speak up about what they believe in. It's so cool. Like that's just something that I don't want to say I was taught not to do it. I didn't believe in myself and my opinions and the things that I felt like and the things that I believed to the extent that this show is like getting people to do that. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm not articulating this well, but yeah, like it's just so cool to see that. Like from kids so young, like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So yeah.
A new generation of theater goers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like a new generation, it really is like watching it and being like, this is the future, you know? It makes me just feel so good about, I guess, what's to come in the arts and what's to come politically. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So off of that, so you said these kids are inspiring to you. Is there anyone who inspired you to do theater?
A bunch of people. Yeah. It was a culmination of a lot of things. I mean, to be honest, my trajectory is a little bit all over the place as far as like the things that I wanted to do growing up. Like I played football for a long time. Not a long time. I mean, like I played football for like 3 years going into high school. My story is so corny. I played football and then like the musical was gonna happen and like I was like, oh, I can't do both. And then yeah. And then I quit football, and then I did the musical. I was Marius in Fairview High School's production of Les Miserables. Yeah, and then that was, and I remember my sophomore year, I did this thing called Pop Show, which is just like a culmination of like acts and like songs that like the students would put on. And that was my first time performing in front of an audience. I did Your Song by Elton John with like a couple of my friends. And I always liked to sing, but you know, I had not performed like that before. The first time I did that was when I was 16, and that's when I found out that I really, really loved it. Like, I had the best time. And it was not something that I considered to be like a viable career path. I mean, like when you're coming up, like especially if you want to be a performer, like everybody tells you not to do it. Everybody, even I remember like doing like master classes with people who are like theater goers, and the thing that they would always say, it was like, pissed me off. It was, if you can do anything else, you should do it.
Good thing you didn't listen.
I know. I mean, like I didn't. Yeah. So, and I don't feel like I could do anything else. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'd be happy doing anything else. But yeah, like, so I originally, I wanted to sing, and I didn't really exactly know like how to approach that avenue, and I think musical theater was a medium that, I don't know, it was just such a unique way of storytelling that I hadn't experienced before the age of like 17. Like I said, it was my junior year of high school. And then I did the musical again when I was a senior, and that's kind of what did it, where I was like, wow, this is just like a really beautiful avenue with which to tell a story. And it's such a, yeah, I mean, yeah. So then, I mean, after that, I auditioned for a bunch of colleges, and, you know, I actually wanted to go to Berkeley for production and design at first, and then they were so expensive. And so I didn't end up going there, and then I went to Ithaca College, which I love their program. It's I didn't consider myself an actor. Like I said, I was mostly a singer, and Ithaca was very acting heavy, and at first I really didn't like that, but then I don't know, I got really, really into it. Now I just really like to act too. I ended up doing a lot of straight plays while I was there. I honestly can't remember what you originally asked.
It was who inspired you to do theater?
I just told you my whole story. A bunch of people. I had a bunch of teachers who, yeah, I mean, a teacher at Fairview, her name was Janice Vlahos, you know, she's been a big part. I almost didn't do, it was choir who that originally led me in. And I didn't sign up for choir my sophomore year. I was like, choir's lame. I was like, you know, I was in football and I want to be one of those guys. And that's offensive to those guys. They were nice people. But like, yeah, and I remember I didn't sign up my sophomore year, and then I got my schedule, and choir was on my schedule, and I said, WTF, like, and I went up to Janice, and I said, why? And she said, yeah, you're doing choir. And I said, oh, I didn't sign up. She said, you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. And then I did, and it was fun, you know. I had a great time, and that's how I ended up doing that. So honestly, like her, and then I had a bunch of really supportive friends, and their families were really supportive of me, and my family was really supportive of me, and yeah, I think it was just a lot of people really believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of people told you not to do theater. Opposite of that, what was the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I can't think of a specific piece of advice that I've been given. I think, you know, this sounds so specific, but I mean, like, I think I realized really young that, like, I can get away with a lot of stuff if I just, like, smile, like.
Top last smile.
Exactly, like, literally that. Because I remember, like, growing up, like, I used to get into trouble and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, and then I'd be like, oh, no, you know, it would turn into one of those. So it kind of became a habit. And then I think eventually it kind of prohibited me from being genuinely vulnerable, just because, like, I had fallen into the habit of just, like, smiling at just, like whenever I was feeling anything, I'd be like, you know, this is what I'm saying, it's very specific. But I mean, I had an acting teacher just say, you're just smiling so much, you're smiling at everything, why are you smiling so much? Like, you're sad right now, like, this scene is sad, like, express that, you know, like, this text is not telling you to be a smiley little kid. And yeah, and then I thought about that, and like, at first I was just like, okay, I just won't smile. But that sounds like really jaded advice, like, but I'm telling you, like, it's one of those things where I thought about it, and I realized, like, how little of my actual feelings I was allowing to show other people and to express to myself, because instead I had deflected it with just like, oh, you know, like, and then it carried over into my acting, where that was like a real acting fallback that I had, where, like, I would just smile at everything. And then, I don't know, I kind of stopped doing that, and I just found, like, a whole spectrum of emotions that I guess I had not considered before. Like I said, it's a very specific thing, but the best advice I ever got was somebody telling me not to smile. You know, world's a crazy place. Yeah.
Okay, so switching gears a bit, the musical's about founding fathers, and while many of them made huge contributions to our country, they were also humans who were deeply flawed.
Of course.
And made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
How does this affect your portrayal of these historical figures?
Honestly, I think there's a duality to every human being, and it's really important to take that into consideration. You know, I'm glad that, I mean, they really addressed that mostly with Hamilton. You know, obviously he cheated on his wife and, you know, sort of like dropped the ball with his son dying in a duel. And like, yeah, like, but that doesn't really discount any of the contributions that he made to society and like our economy and like the building blocks that he, you know, set. As far as like my portrayal of the people, I don't know, I think that's really important. Like it shouldn't be hid. Like truth is truth and it matters. It's reality. And that's really, really important. Like the USA has a shady history. Like it's so shady. But I mean, we're here now and, you know, hopefully we're educated about it. I mean, I think that's really important that like we see all sides of the story because I think it, you know, it really helps us going forward, you know, in proceeding. Yeah, like you know, Thomas Jefferson like wasn't historically like a nice dude, you know, I guess. I mean, I don't know a lot about him. I was more focused on just, you know, learning the blocking, but like I know that, you know, he was a big proponent of slavery but I mean, he made a lot of contributions too, you know? I mean, everybody is flawed. In every story that you ever tell, hopefully, you know, in order to be a dynamic character, you have to have flaws. In order to be a human being, you have to. It shouldn't be ignored. It should be, I don't know about embraced sometimes, but yeah, that's important.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've been in this cast for a little bit over a year, and you traveled to cities all over the country with the Hamilton cast. What is it like having different audiences, performing in front of different cities? Did you get different reactions from?
Yeah, for sure. It's so interesting. I mean, yeah, I feel like in every city, like people laugh in places. That's primarily the one that I notice is like sometimes people will like laugh. It's funny in the Eduhams, there was one where it was like, there was one, I think it was last week or something, where there's this song, Say No to This. It's like, led me to her bed, let her legs spread and said, and then like everybody was like, they like freaked out about it. I thought it was so funny. And then there was one at the end, spoiler alert, but like also it's history. Hamilton gets shot. Like Wikipedia, they literally say it in the first number.
It's in the first song.
Yeah. So I'm not sorry. But yeah, he got shot, and then it was like, and then like, you know, as soon as that happened, there was silence, and somebody said, "Oh no!" It was so funny, and then everybody laughed, like in the audience. It's so weird to be a performer in moments like that because it's just like, how do I not acknowledge this? Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, it varies.
Yeah. And kind of going off of that, have you had any onstage or backstage mishaps? And if so, how did you adapt?
Hell yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, that happens, especially, you know, like, I'm a cover, so I don't do these tracks every day. So, like, my debut, like, my first time ever going on, I did it, you know? Like, it was for Mulligan, Madison, and the whole thing went, you know, as good as, like, could be expected for the first time. I didn't make any, like, crazy mess-ups. And I was like, you know, this is good. I'm living breezy. Like, we're golden. The last line that I have in the entire show, I just forgot. It was so embarrassing. And it was like Josh Henry he's our original Bert. He just said, President Madison. And I said, he took our country from bankruptcy. Because he took our country from bankruptcy to prosperity. I hate to admit it, but he doesn't get enough credit for all the credit he gave us. They said he took our country from bankruptcy to financial stability. And then it's like, I hate to admit it, but he doesn't get enough credit for all the credit. And then he's like, who lives, who dies, who? So they cut me off. So it was like so embarrassing. And then we just had to pretend it didn't happen. Like, it's like, and there's been times where I've like, you know, been in the wrong, that's like the funniest one. I mean, there's a bunch of really funny ones. Like, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to like blow up anybody's spot, but there was like one time when our George Washington just like, it's like, you know, you do it, you get into the groove, and I think like you expect it to just come to you, and sometimes it just doesn't. Like, you know, and there was one time when, ladies and gentlemen, the issue on the table, Secretary Jefferson is, you know, like the cabinet battle. So he comes out and he says, ladies and gentlemen. Woo. And it's like, he's just the best, he's the most like, he's just such a jubilant man, so. He goes, I lost my train of thought. Secretary Jefferson, you have the floor. It was so funny. Like, they just started. I mean, it totally happens, you know.
There's a lot of lines and songs to remember.
There's a lot of lines. Like, and it's great because it's so dense that usually you forget about it in like 10 measures anyways. So, yeah. But it happens all the time.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Just kind of overall big question, like what does this show mean to you?
It means so many things, and it's progressed. I think like so much life has happened while I've been on tour. Like our George Washington had his second child while we were in LA, you know. Our Josh Henry, well no, I guess that was after, yeah, that was, his baby was just born. I don't know what I'm saying. But, you know, I mean, it's just, a lot of friendships have been developed, you know, things have happened, like journeys have been gone through. Like, I have made a progression as a human being through, like, this process just because of, you know, it comes with so many experiences. It meant a different thing to me before than it does now, you know. I think before, it meant what it, I mean, and it still does, you know. I think that it's this idea and it's this movement that's very inclusive, and, you know, it involves everyone, and it's, you know, a choice to stand up for what you believe in. And I think that has remained consistent to me, like, throughout. And I think over time it became a lot about growth and a lot about internal progression and overcoming my fears and overcoming my, you know, inner demons is the wrong word. I mean, I had a lot of like Thomas Jefferson, like that track, like Homie David won a Tony for that. Like, who am I? You know what I mean? It was one of those things where I think figuring out like what it is that I had to offer as a human being and as a performer has progressed a lot over time, like through this show. And it's funny because like the show itself is a lot about, you know, embracing yourself and what you believe in. And that and like I said, that remains consistent, and that has been like a huge like arc for me throughout this entire process. You know, like I mean, I don't have that much experience in general with life. You know, I'm 23, like I was blessed enough to get this like, you know, pretty shortly out of college. So a lot of my postgraduate life has been this show. Yeah, I couldn't be happier about it.
Awesome. So you mentioned David. Were you able to meet with any of the original cast?
Yeah.
Have you met all of them?
David used to come hang out with us all the time. Yeah, we had like a barbecue with him while we were in LA. He's dope. He's a good guy.
Do they give any advice about the roles, or?
Oh, I mean, I've never really asked. I've tried not to be like, you know, I imagine that. I don't know. I imagine that if I had done it for a while and then I was finished with it, you know, I'd probably just want to like live my life.
So you guys don't talk about Hamilton?
I mean, I try not to talk about Hamilton with the people. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but we met a lot of them. Oak and David were both at the opening night. Lynn was too.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got to meet with him. They're all great. I don't know. Yeah, they're just like people. It's so funny, you know, I feel like coming out of college, you know, these were people that I like, I mean, the whole thing is relatively new, but like in my senior year, you know, we like talked about them in class and talked about this whole thing and talked about, you know, Tommy Kail, Andy Blankenbuehler, Alex Lacamoire, the original like creative team. And yeah, it was like, it's so crazy to just hang out with them. You know, it's funny to like have your role models just become like people just before your eyes and like have a regular conversation about something that has nothing to do with your job. It's sort of, yeah, that's been really interesting. Like talking with Lynn and just having a regular conversation about his flight into LA. It was wow. I'm just like, wow, this is just so, like, yeah. So yes, I met a lot of them.
Very cool. So we're gonna open up to audience questions. I think we have some mics around the room. If anyone has a question, did you want to raise your hand and we can bring a mic to you?
Can you talk a little bit about the journey between getting the part, like the rehearsals and to opening night?
Totally. Yeah, so got it, freaked out, went to Puerto Rico, felt like a superhero, started rehearsing. Yeah, ran around, just ran around the whole span of Manhattan, and then it was awesome, and and we started rehearsal, and that was like, it was in Midtown. It was like from 10 to 6 every day. I mean, we had to learn a whole show in like 3 weeks, so it was pretty intense. And it was crazy at the time, and now I'm really thankful that this happened. But you know, the covers are not priority when teaching a show to an original company. You know, we were all learning the show at the same time, so you know, the priority was obviously teaching the principals and the on-stage cast like their parts like as fast as possible. And so a lot of me learning my stuff, I had to do it through osmosis and like on my own, and I had to really pay attention to what was going on and absorb as much as I possibly could so that I could like go home and like review it. And that was really crazy. I'd never had to do anything like that before. Like, it's like nobody was holding my hand. I felt like it was so difficult. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like that built so much like character, just like having to do something like that. I mean, yeah, nobody was telling me what to do, and like, and I was still expected to do it. And then nobody talked to me about that either. That was the weird thing, is like I really wasn't sure what the expectation was and like when I was supposed to know my stuff by and like what that was like. So I just tried to learn it as fast as I could. And fortunately, fortunately that like I had that attitude, because like I had to go on really, really early. My debut in Madison happened, I think, the second week of previews, which like usually, I don't know, it's not like it's unheard of, but it usually doesn't happen. Like, it was crazy. But fortunately, I had been so stressed about it that I had already learned it. So it was like, it was all I thought about. I was like, literally, I would go to bed and be like, what if, I don't know, like somebody just like quit? Like, I don't know, like I was just thinking all kinds of scenarios like flying by in my head. I was like, I would have dreams, like, just like, about like waking up like for opening night and people being like, hey, you have to go on for this track you've never done, and like it starts in 30, good luck, you know. So yeah, so it was a lot of that. And then when they knew that I was gonna have to go on, they were really hands-on with me, which was super helpful. And you know, I got to rehearse like one-on-one with like everybody, and then I had a put in, which was great. And then I think it was the week after that, I had to debut a different role. It was like the first two were just nuts, dude. I mean, because that one, the next week when I had to debut the other one, I got 1 day. They told me the day before, like the night before was my day off. I was like out with friends. We were doing this like community outreach thing with like a homelessness outreach in San Francisco, and then it was just afterwards we were hanging out. I was just like having a glass of wine, and then like I got a call. It was like, hey, Ruben like is out. You have to go on tomorrow. And I just like put my glass of wine down. And I was like, I have to go home. Bye, guys. And then I just like went over it a bunch. That was pretty intense. That was one of those things where I feel like now it's a year out, so I could talk about it a little bit more candidly, but I remember like I had to put in like an emergency put in the next morning, which was great. But I remember there being certain numbers where I was like, okay, I just have to not hit anybody. I was just like, I would be like maneuvering around, like I didn't know where I was supposed to be, but I knew like approximately that I like should be there because like people were here. Like it was like nuts. Like it was the most terrifying thing ever. But then it was like one of those things where after that I was like, I can do anything. Like, oh my God, like that was crazy. Yeah, and that was like, I think that's the most stress like that I've had with this experience, and after that it was like smooth sailing. Like, I think nothing will be harder than that. Yeah, and I mean, after that it became a little bit more routine, and you know, we rehearse like once, twice a week, you know, and we'll like run through the show, and I'll be like a different person like every time, and yeah, it became a little more routine after that. But yeah, the start was actually super turbulent for me. Like, oh, it was crazy. Yeah.
If you could play any role in any non-Hamilton musical, what would it be?
I mean, I really want to be, this isn't a musical, but I really want to be in Streetcar Named Desire. I'd love to be Stanley. That would be awesome. Have you guys seen that? Like with Marlon Brando, like have you seen that movie? Oh, it's so awesome. That was like, that dude like, I don't know. I mean, everybody talks about Marlon Brando like he's like the best actor ever because he is, or at least like young Marlon Brando, like before he like had an earpiece with like the lines, but like, you know, like back when he tried, like he was really good. Yeah, I think that's like my dream one. I would love to be in that show. I have to think about a musical. There's a bunch of musicals I'd love to be in. I would love to be Warner in Legally Blonde. That would be so much fun. Like, this is my aesthetic, guys. Like, I love being like, I'm trying to think of a word that's, I just love to be like kind of a jerk. Like it's like my favorite thing. And I like, you know, I go in for like casting all the time for like, see, I got like a young face. I go in for like high school bullies and like jocks and stuff a lot. And like, yeah, like, they're a little like two-dimensional, but they're so much fun. Like it's so much fun to just be that dude. It's like, think you're so cool with your pants. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. I would love to be Warner Legally Blonde. That'd be so much fun. I don't know if I'd call that like my dream, but like it would definitely be a good time.
So my daughter goes to Fairview.
Yeah.
Have you been to Fairview? Been back to school since you've been?
Yeah, like I went and like talked to one of the choirs last week. Yeah.
What was the response? What's the response been from the students?
Oh, I love them. I mean, they were just a lot of fun. It wasn't like it wasn't like anything like this. It was very casual, and I just like told them about how I used to go there and my process from then. They were really nice. They were very enthusiastic, and I loved talking to them. It was very strange, like going back, and being in Denver in general has been very, it's been very crazy. There's a lot of nostalgia and sentiment and what it means to be home, kind of addressing that, and especially going back to Fairview, it was like being in that choir room and like literally like looking at the seats that I used to sit in the tenor 2 section, and like, I don't know, it was so wild. And I think they got that. And hopefully, everybody always told me when I was in high school, I was like, you're gonna miss this, like, you know, this is gonna be like the stuff that you miss. Obviously, like, I suck, so I was like, whatever, I hate high school. But like, you know, yeah. Like a lot of my formative experiences happened, so, and I was trying to tell them that. Hopefully, like, it didn't like it did with me, but it was really, really, really cool talking to them. It meant a lot to me.
I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in roles like yours are there? Like, do all the main characters have someone?
I think everybody has at least 2 covers. Lawrence has 3 covers. And like there's another guy who covers the parts that I cover, but he does like 2 dance tracks also. Yeah, like everybody has at least 2.
So every performance, there's 2 people there who could step in?
Yeah, who could potentially like step in.
So then what does the costume room look like?
Large.
Because you have to have the costumes for all of the different
we have like
roles that you could potentially play.
Yeah, my gondola is like stacked. Like it's just got all of we have like, I want to say there's like 34 cast members in total, and like about half are like offstage covers. So there's a lot. It's so much.
How many costume changes do you usually have?
Usually like 3, I think, in the show. I mean, like the first act. Let me think. Okay, we have the parchment in the beginning, and then we have the regular student coats, and then we have the revolutionary outfits, and then Lafayette changes into a general outfit, and then he changes into his Jefferson costume, and then Jefferson doesn't change, and then back into parchment. So I guess 6. And then that's a whole show. But in the first act, it's like 3 per character, about. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good amount. There's one quick change at the end that's like crazy, but that's the only one that's really that stressful. Because usually we have like a minute to like change. But there's one, there's oh, duh. No, at the end there's one where like, I remember the first couple times I did it, I like missed the next number. Because like it's literally like you have to go off and like whoosh, you just like take out all you have. I think it's like 45 seconds to like change your entire outfit, and that one's like crazy. But all the other ones are fine. No stress.
So I imagine when you like go to different theaters, kind of have like slightly different stages. Does anything
sort of,
have to change?
Generally, I mean, we'll show up to each theater like 3 hours early and just like talk through the changes. Like usually we won't have to, you know, like run through, well, I mean, we run through like a couple things just to get lighting and stuff. Because usually that's the thing, is, you know, it's a very lighting heavy show. And I think like theaters are equipped differently, like in the way that they use lights and stuff like that. So that's usually what we have to go through, is change around the lighting and everything. But generally the stages are like roughly the same sizes proportionally. Sometimes props will be in different places, so we have to like look through that. But it's really, really similar. They do a really good job at like making everything kind of what it is. Yeah, and we have like a turntable that we like take with us everywhere. So that's nice. At least that's the same. That's like the thing that needs to be the same. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have like seen that, but it's like it's crazy.
It's a great use of a turntable.
Oh yeah, it's and aesthetically it's beautiful, but like learning how to walk on that thing was a process. Yeah.
And dance on it.
And dance on it. And I don't even have to like dance on it. Like people are just doing spins and crazy stuff on that thing. Oh, it's wild.
I imagine that you perform a lot regularly, and so does it kind of become routine, or are there a lot of highs and lows each
Sometimes.
week?
I feel like the first show is always kind of weird. You know, when I have to, it's hard to just get right into it, you know, especially when I'll have usually like 2 weeks in between, like, I don't know, they've been getting mileage out of me lately, but like, yeah, there'll usually be like a week or 2 in between, like when I'll have to go on again. And it's always just a little bit weird, the first one. Like that opening number is so stressful to me. I cannot lie. Because it's so exposed, and like, I still get a little nervous. Like that doesn't go away. Like unless I do it multiple times in a row, like usually the second one I won't be nervous, but the first number I'm always nervous. Because that first line, especially as Lawrence, where it's like Burr comes out, he says his thing, and Lawrence is the second person to come out, and it's just you in the audience, baby, and like literally like the spotlight is just like like. That was like the thing when I first came on, because I have to like figure out where to breathe because the line is kind of long. And I remember the first time I ever did it, like going out and then looking and just being like my pupils just. I was like the $10 founding father without it, but like it was like it was so. It's kind of nerve wracking like the first time, and I haven't. It still is like. It doesn't really become routine. But it's definitely like way easier than it used to be. I imagine it becomes routine for like other people. But for me, I'm always really excited to go on. I always have a great time. And I'm always very thankful when I get to do it. So far I haven't been able to do it enough times where I don't know that it would, I haven't been able to do it so much where I feel like it's like, whatever. I talk in gestures. You guys just like have to like get used to it. Like it's just who I am. Just accept me for me. But yeah, like I think for some people it definitely is. Like they can just like, it's just like what they do. You know, I think mostly just because of like my job. If I only had to cover one person, it'd be a little different. It would totally be routine if I did. But the thing is that I always have to like, my brain has 3 modes like for each track. So I always have to pay attention to that, or I'm going to say somebody else's line. Like it's just going to happen. And yeah.
If your friends at Google could create one technology to help the theater community, what would it be?
Oh my gosh.
Dream big.
Ooh. I feel like what I say matters. Damn.
It can be anything.
I guess wish there was like that's like a really big thing for auditions. I think the process of finding music and scenes and stuff that really fits the project. I think that's really difficult and strenuous for me. I guess for me, like I think it is for a lot of actors. You know, just like finding music that's easily accessible and works and is in the style of the show that you're going in for. That's like sort of a tough like research process that like has to happen, I think, for a lot of people. So I don't know, like something where I can be like, hey, Google, I need a song that makes me look spunky and I can hit an A in it. Like, you know. I guess like if you could do that, that'd be great.
We'll tell our engineers if anyone can 20% project.
Are you able to kind of leave all the characters sort of like on stage or so, or whenever you're out in everyday life, are you kind of like, I'm being super Jefferson right now?
I love that. I'm so Jefferson right now. No, I leave them on stage. I mean, they're all like me, like different sides of me, you know? Like the way that I do it. I mean, that's what acting is to me. Like it's just like bringing myself to like to the circumstance and like whatever. Like I meet the disposition halfway. So that's the thing is like I am extra by nature. So I mean, yeah, I guess like. But I don't really consider that like bringing the characters with me. I think that's just like. I think it's just because that's already me. Yes. Like, I bring it to that. So, no, I'm not like method or anything. Like, I'm not like, I don't know. I don't know if that answered that. I don't know. No, I don't really have a problem like leaving it on stage. I've had to go through a process of like really separating this from my personal identity. Just because if I didn't, I would go nuts. So yeah, I think I'm good at leaving work at work and when I'm in my personal life is maybe I'm being Jefferson, but I don't call it that. I don't know. Yeah.
So I saw the show a few weeks ago in Denver. It was awesome. And you had mentioned like sometimes you forget a line or somebody forgets a line. When I saw the show, it felt like nobody forgot anything and it was perfect. Mm-hmm. Has the cast as a whole ever felt like at the end of a performance, wow, that was the best performance we've ever done?
I don't know. I think like different adjectives are used. I don't know if anybody has ever said that like about a performance that they've just done. There's definitely been days where I've been like, I am nailing it, but I don't know. There are definitely some days when it's like, man, this is really fun. You know, because obviously you do it every day, and like not every show is going to be the same, but there are definitely certain shows, and it is like if the audience is reacting, like it feels really good, and like there are definitely shows where like at the end we're like, that was really great, like that was awesome, and it feels really good. Yeah, for sure. I guess I don't know if we'll ever say like that was the one. Like it doesn't get better than this, baby. Like yeah, all downhill from here. No, but I mean, I'm sure that yours was probably a day where it was like, wow, that felt really good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
This was such a treat for us.
It was so my pleasure.